We are now in Daniel 11, starting with verse 21. We got through Daniel 10 and half of 11 last week, and now we're going to finish up Daniel 11 and 12, and we'll be finished with Daniel. So let's go ahead and start with Daniel 11, verse 21. Now we are talking about, first of all, the next 14 verses.
Look what the cat blew in.
The next 14 verses focus on Antiochus Epiphanes. And remember, he is the little horn of Daniel 8. So on your charts, the little horn of Daniel 8 is Antiochus Epiphanes, and he is a foreshadowing of the Antichrist. We've talked about him before. He was so horrible that he was nicknamed Epiphanes, which means madman, instead of the title he gave himself, Epiphanes, which means the God made manifest. All right, now, Daniel 11, verse 21. In his place shall arise a contemptible person, to whom royal majesty has not been given. He shall come in without warning and obtain the kingdom by flattery. So this is Antiochus Epiphanes. He's a contemptible person in this translation, to whom royal majesty has not been given. He came in, he obtained the throne through flattery and deception. So it says that he'll come in without warning and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Verse 22. Armies shall be utterly swept away before him and broken, even the prince of the covenant. And from the time that an alliance is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, and he shall become strong with a small people. Without warning, he shall come into the richest parts of the province, and he shall do what neither his fathers nor his fathers' fathers have done, scattering among them plunder, spoil, and goods. He shall devise plans against strongholds, but only for a time. And he shall stir up his power and his heart against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall wage war with an exceedingly great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for plots shall be devised against him. Verses 22 through 25, what we just read, these describe battles between Antiochus Epiphanes, who was the king in Syria. So he's the king of the north. Remember when it talks about the kings of the south, that's the kings in Egypt, where we had a chart with those kings on it. So this is a battles between Antiochus Epiphanes in Syria and Ptolemy VI in Egypt. So it just says that they had several battles back and forth. Can you hear it? Okay. Pause it. All right, so these verses describe battles between Antiochus Epiphanes in Syria and Ptolemy VI in Egypt. Now, verse 26 says, even those who eat his food shall break him. His army shall be swept away, and many shall fall down slain. Ptolemy VI was deceived by his own advisors, and his brother, Ptolemy VIII, was set up to rule in Egypt. So then, Antiochus and Ptolemy VI sat down at the table to form a treaty, and they wanted to defeat the brother down in Egypt. But neither one intended to keep the treaty. And here in verse 27 it says, and as for the two kings, their hearts shall be bent on doing evil. They shall speak lies at the same table, but to no avail, for the end is yet to be at the time appointed. So that's what that's talking about. They sat down at a table to make a treaty, but they really didn't intend to keep it. Well, you need to take note of the end of this verse. For the end is yet to be at the time appointed. The end, whenever it will be, the end of time, the end when Jesus comes, will come at God's appointed time. Kingdoms come, kingdoms go, but God is in control. There is an appointed time, and it's yet future. Verse 28, and he shall return to his land. He is Antiochus Epiphanes, with great wealth, but his heart shall be set against the Holy Covenant. Who's the Holy Covenant? That would be Israel. The Holy Covenant is referring to Israel and the Jews. And he shall work his will and return to his own land. When he returned back to Syria, Israel happened to be on the way home. And for some reason, this evil man's heart was just set against the Jewish people. And so he was set against the Holy Covenant. And then, at the appointed, verse 29, at the appointed time he shall return and come into the south, but it shall not be this time as it was before. For ships of Kittim shall come against him, and he shall be afraid and withdraw, and shall turn back and be enraged, and take action against the Holy Covenant. He shall turn back and pay attention to those who forsake the Holy Covenant. So he went back down to invade Egypt again, but things didn't go well. This was 168 BC. The Romans joined forces with Egypt. When it says ships of Kittim, those are Roman forces. The Roman forces, they joined forces with Egypt and they defeated him at Alexandria. Rome was on the rise. It wasn't a big force yet, but it was on the rise. It was starting to take more and more territory. Antiochus was humiliated, and he would pay tribute to Rome from then on.
Now, mine didn't say the name of the city you just read.
What is it?
Mine says for ships from Cyprus.
Okay, and before we saw that up here as well, when we were in Daniel 10, it talked about Cyprus, and that was the same. It's still Roman forces. Yeah, Kittim or Cyprus. It could be either one in there. So, he was humiliated. He'd been defeated by the Romans. He was humiliated, and he had to pay tribute to Rome. Well, Israel was an easy target for a humiliated king. So he sent a tax collector to Jerusalem to get taxes from them so he would have tribute to pay to Rome. At first he claimed peace, but then he began to kill and plunder, and he rewarded any who would forsake the Holy Covenant. And that's what we see here, where it says in verse 32, 31. Forces from him shall appear and profane the temple and fortress. The temple is the temple in Jerusalem. And shall take away the regular burnt offering. Remember we said before that he forbid them to do the sacrifices at the temple? And they shall set up the abomination that makes desolate. Remember he stopped the daily sacrifices. He demanded that only the Greek gods were to be worshipped. Everybody was to just follow the Greek ways. The Jews weren't allowed to keep their Sabbath. They weren't allowed to keep any of the laws that God had given them. They weren't allowed to sacrifice or anything. They weren't allowed to circumcise their baby boys. If they were even caught with the scriptures, then they were killed. And then he set up an altar to the Greek god Zeus in the temple. He sacrificed a pig on the altar, and then he had blood from the pig sprinkled on everything in the temple. So this made it totally unclean so that the Jews couldn't approach it and worship there. This is known as the abomination of desolation. We see that many times in Daniel. We see it in Thessalonians. Jesus talked of it. We see it in Revelation. It's the abomination of desolation. This one says, he shall set up the abomination that makes desolate. But you'll see that phrase many times. All right, verse 32. He shall seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant, but the people who know their God shall stand firm and take action. And the wise among the people shall make many understand, though for some days they shall stumble by sword and flame, by captivity and plunder. When they stumble, they shall receive a little help, and many shall join themselves to them with flattery. And some of the wise shall stumble, so that they may be refined, purified, and made white until the time of the end. For it still awaits the appointed time. Antiochus Epiphanes corrupted people through flattery and deception. Some Jews did join with him. And so that's where it says that he shall seduce with flattery those who violate the covenant. Those who violate the covenant would refer to Jews who followed his ways instead of following God and his covenant. But the people who know their God shall stand firm and take action. Those who really knew God and who followed God were not deceived by all of his flattery and deception. They were not corrupted. They feared God. And so then in 33, it says, we've talked before about how Judas Maccabeus gathered an army of Jews who revolted against this great evil. And they succeeded 3 years later in defeating him and rededicating the temple. And that is what is now commemorated by the holiday Hanukkah. We talked about the details of that before. Some of the wise will stumble, but it refines and purifies them until the time of the end. For it still awaits the appointed time. And we know that even today, sometimes we go through trials, but the fire of trials refines our wisdom until the time of the end. All right, now we're going to come to a change in the prophecy. The remaining verses point to the future. Up till now, we can look at history and we see the fulfillment to the letter of everything that Daniel was told. But now there's a great gap in time. It's been over 2,000 years so far. The following verses speak of the distant future, which will take place at the appointed time.
What? Where are you at?
I'm getting ready to start with verse 36. Chapter 11, verse 36. All right? So now, from now on, it's talking about the Antichrist. And we're going to get some insight into his character. Here in verse 36. The king shall do as he wills. This king that's talking about is the Antichrist. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak astonishing things against the God of gods. He shall prosper till the indignation is accomplished. For what is decreed shall be done. So he's going to set himself up above as a god and blaspheme the God of gods, and he'll be successful for a time, but just until the indignation is accomplished. The indignation is referring to the time of the tribulation. That's what that's talking about. The time of the indignation is the tribulation. Verse 37 says, he shall pay no attention to the gods of his fathers, or to the one beloved by women. He shall not pay attention to any other god, for he shall magnify himself above all. So he's opposed to every other god and sets himself up as a supreme God. Let's look quickly at 2 Thessalonians 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3.
Okay, hold hold on 1 second, Crystal. You might wanna come and see this, I don't know what it's saying. Use cellular data, keep trying Wi-Fi. Did we lose Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Use cellular data?
Yeah. Okay.
Problem is,
Okay, verse, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 says, this is Jesus' words, let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless rebellion comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. So that's a passage that's talking about the end times and talking about the Antichrist. That was 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 3 and 4. Just sounds kind of like Daniel. Verse 38. He shall honor the God of fortresses instead of these, a God whom his fathers did not know. He shall honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and costly gifts. He shall deal with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. Those who acknowledge him he shall load with honor. He shall make them rulers over many, and shall divide the land for a price. So, what he's going to deify is actually war. He's going to strive to conquer the world. And he's going to pour huge sums of money into his war machine. And that's what he's talking here about. He shall honor with gold and silver and costly gifts and the strongest fortresses, etc. Right? That's what that's talking about. And as he conquers new areas of the world, he will reward his most avid followers with honor and land. Those who acknowledge him he shall load with honor and make them rulers over many, and shall divide the land. But he shall divide the land for a price. The price is the selling of their souls to total devotion to a man who is possessed and ruled by Satan. That's the price. Verse 40. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, but the king of the north shall rush upon him like a whirlwind, with chariots and horsemen and with many ships, and he shall come into countries and shall overflow and pass through. He shall come into the glorious land, and tens of thousands shall fall, but these shall be delivered out of his hand, Edom and Moab and the main part of the Ammonites. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall become ruler of the treasuries of gold and of silver and all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Cushites shall follow in his train. Okay, you ask about events today and how they might relate. Notice here that it's talking about the king of the north and the king of the east. This version doesn't talk about east. Do some of yours say the king of the north and the king of the east in there?
Mine said south too.
Mine says east.
Here it is in 44.
Yeah.
News from the east and the north shall alarm him, and he shall go out with great fury to destroy and devote many to destruction. Many commentators believe that to be Russia and China.
The east.
East would be from China. The north would be Russia. From the north and from the east.
Well, they are threatening.
Okay. So in the tribulation period, kings from the north and the south will attempt to go against the Antichrist from both sides, and there'll be major military confrontations. Antichrist's victories and power will increase until he has control over the wealth of these nations. So that's what it's talking about, that he shall become ruler of the treasuries of gold and of silver and all the precious things of Egypt and the Libyans and the Cushites. Now, again, with the from the north and the east, let's turn to Revelation 16. Pass passage in here that I believe relates to this. 16, verse 12. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, to prepare the way for the kings from the east. So that is one of the things that happens in Revelation, and it says it's to prepare the way for the kings of the east. And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs, for they are demonic spirits performing signs, who go abroad to the kings of the whole world, to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. Keep your finger, and I'll go ahead and read that. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who stays awake, keeping his garments on, that he may not go about naked and be seen exposed. Now look at verse 16. And they assembled them at the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. So if you studied prophecy, you know about the battle of Armageddon. Okay, now go back to Daniel. Verse 45. Down to 11:45.
In verse 41, what is considered the beautiful land?
The beautiful land is Israel. Yes, the glorious land, the beautiful land. That is always referring to Israel. Yes. He shall come into the glorious land.
I found the Jerusalem,
Mount Zion was in Israel, which is Jerusalem, right. Jerusalem is on Mount Zion. So, he shall pitch his palatial tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end with none to help him. So this is, between the sea is the Mediterranean Sea, and the glorious holy mountain is Jerusalem. But in that area, there is a big valley called Megiddo. Megiddo was the place of many, many battles throughout the centuries. Come on, the last verse in 11. Last verse in 11, right. Between the glorious mountain and the sea. That is the valley of Megiddo. We've stood on Mount Megiddo and looked over that valley. It's this huge valley and that is where the battle of Armageddon. Armageddon refers to Megiddo. Armageddon and Megiddo are related there. And so that's where the final battle is going to take place. And that's what this is talking about. Okay? That's where the battle of Armageddon is going to be fought. I'm sorry?
That's the return of Christ.
Yes. And at the final battle, right, that's when Christ is going to return. Yes. Yes. So, it says, yet he will come to his end with none to help him. So the second coming of Christ during the battle of Armageddon is described in Revelation 19. Let's turn there. Revelation 19. Let's look at verse 11. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called is the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. Now let's skip to 19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him. who was sitting on the horse, and against his army. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who in its presence had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. So he will come to his end with none to help him, just like Daniel said. All right, any questions about Daniel 11? We don't, some of this was again history, and some of it we're just going to find out. This is some of the things that we believe are going to happen. All right, so chapter 12 is a bigger picture of the end times, and it's really a continuation of the previous prophecies. I'm just going to read that entire chapter. Let's read Daniel chapter 12. At that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people. And there shall be a time of trouble such as never been since there was a nation till that time. But at that time your people shall be delivered, every one whose name shall be found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky above, and those who turn many to righteousness, like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others stood, one on this bank of the stream, and one on that bank of the stream. And someone said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the stream, How long shall it be till the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the stream. He raised his right hand and his left hand toward heaven, and swore by him who lives forever, that it would be for a time, times, and half a time. And that when the shattering of the power of the holy people comes to an end, all these things would be finished. I heard, but I did not understand. Then I said, O my Lord, what shall be the outcome of these things? He said, Go your way, Daniel, for the words are shut up and sealed until the time of the end. Many shall purify themselves and make themselves white and be refined, but the wicked shall act wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but those who are wise shall understand. And from the time that the regular burnt offering is taken away, and the abomination that makes desolate is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he who waits and arrives at the 1,335 days. But go your way till the end, and you shall rest, and shall stand in your allotted place at the end of the days. All right, so here we see Michael again. And who is Michael? He's an archangel. Maybe the archangel, the main angel above all other angels. But he's one of his main charges is the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. It says that here, the great prince who has charge of your people. Your people would be, Daniel's people would be the Jewish people. So, and this is a reminder to us that all of this is a spiritual battle. It's been a spiritual battle since the beginning of the earth. It's been a spiritual battle between Satan not wanting the man to come that's going to crush his heel, right? It's going to ha! So,
Okay.
yeah. It's been a spiritual battle all through time. And so this is a reminder that that's what it's all about. So when the Antichrist will begin his persecution of the Jews in the middle of the 7 years of tribulation, Israel will experience a time of trouble such as never been since there was a nation till that time. Satan's going to do everything in his power to annihilate the nation of Israel from the earth during this time. He's going to try to prevent the return and the reign of Christ. Moses talked about this time in Deuteronomy 4:30 through 31. Just run to that real quick for you. Deuteronomy 4:30 to 31 says, "When you are in tribulation and all these things come upon you in the latter days, you will return to the Lord your God and obey his voice. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not leave you or destroy you or forget the covenant with you, with your fathers that he swore to them." So even Moses spoke about the tribulation in the latter days. Jeremiah called it the time of Jacob's distress. That was in Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Jesus' warning is recorded in Matthew 24:21. There he says, "For there will be great tribulation such as not been from the beginning of the world until now. No, and never will be." So, how necessary it is for Michael to come and to rise and to guard Israel against this annihilation. And then it says that those who will be delivered, at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone whose name shall be written in the book. That just really stood out to me, about the people who are written in the book. What book do you think this is referring to? What?
The book of life.
The book of life. Yes. It's the book of life, the book of salvation. Luke 10:20 says, "Rejoice that your names are written in heaven." Revelation 3:5 and 17:8 and 20:12 all refer to the book of life. They all talk about the book of life. Revelation 20:15 says, "And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire." And in Revelation 21:27, it's referred to as the Lamb's book of life. So, how do we get our names written in this book?
By accepting Christ.
That's right. By accepting Christ as the Lord of our lives and accepting that he came and gave his life for us and took our sins. So that's how we get our names written in the book of life, is by acknowledging that he's the Son of God. I'm sorry?
Back up a little bit.
All right. Okay, so we believe that the rapture is going to occur before the tribulation. And so the rapture is when Jesus is going to come in the clouds and he's going to gather all believers to heaven. So this is going to be all of those who've already written in the Lamb's book of life. So who's it talking about here? We're already going to be gone.
Well, there's still gonna be people saved during the tribulation.
That's right.
You know,
There are-
that's when he sends out the 144,000
Yes,
Jews, and so,
that's right. That's right. So we're already going to be gone. Jesus is going to come in the clouds, and the rapture is going to happen before the tribulation. So we don't have to go through the tribulation, all of those who have already accepted him as our Savior. However, there will be people saved during the tribulation. And this is going to be your relatives and friends and neighbors that you've witnessed to, but they just wouldn't accept. They just wouldn't give their hearts to Jesus. But when all this stuff starts happening, they're going to realize, hey, they were telling the truth. And so there will be many, many people saved during the tribulation. This includes Jews and Gentiles.
well, when Christ comes back, he comes back with his army. That is all of us who have went on before,
That's right.
all dressed in white robes.
Yes. So Revelation actually speaks of Jews and Gentiles who are going to be saved during this time. We'll look at that. Now in verse 2, it says that after the tribulation, 12:2, many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and some to shame and everlasting contempt. So both the righteous and the wicked are going to be resurrected, but their destinies are going to be quite different. Some will arise to everlasting life, and some to everlasting contempt. Verse 3, I love this verse. And those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the sky above, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. The wise during this time are going to see through Antichrist's deception and his lies, and they will turn many others to righteousness. They're going to say, hey, Jesus is Lord, and he's coming again. We've heard all about it. That was the truth, and there are many, many people. They're going to turn many to righteousness. And it says they're going to shine like the stars. One reason they're going to shine so brightly is because it's going to be so dark at that time. So much evil. That we're gone, but the Holy Spirit is gone with us, and it'll be so dark that they will shine brightly. In verse 4, it says, Daniel shut up the words and sealed the book until the time of the end. I'm using a Jeremiah Study Bible, and here on notes on this, he says that in the ancient Near East, a seal was placed on important documents so that no one could tamper with them. Here, Daniel is told to seal up his book or scroll because what he prophesies is for a future time and must be preserved. So it doesn't mean seal it up so nobody can see it. It's to preserve it. It's to keep it for a future time. It's to preserve it. And then it says, many shall run to and fro. Aren't people just running to and fro today, trying to figure out the future? We just see them, even though it says that knowledge shall increase. Just think about how much knowledge has increased since this time. Just at an incredible rate. And now today, even we're seeing with the AI and all of that, there's just so much knowledge that's increased, but still we don't understand the times of the end. But he tells us to be wise and to study it and to understand. We're expected to study the end times and to know and to recognize the signs. Now in verse 5 it says, I, Daniel, looked, and behold, 2 others stood on each bank of the stream. So it looks like there are other angels present during the giving of this prophecy. It's almost like, this is an important time, and there are other angels that come from heaven, and they're all wondering too, because the angels don't know the future. They're wondering what's going to happen. And so others are invited to like this conference to see what's going on. And they're like, wow. And one of them asked the man in linen, who we believe is Jesus. He says, how long shall it be till the end of these wonders?
So he's actually talking to Jesus or to
Yes.
Michael?
Well, I think the man in linen is Jesus. The man, because remember we saw him before. We saw him clothed in linen before, and the description of him sounded like Jesus.
Well, because it says who was above, mine says, and the one says the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river.
Right. So it seems like he's actually hovering above the waters. He's not on the land. He's hovering up in the sky above the waters. Is this man in linen? And then he raises both hands up to God, and he's swearing by God the Father that this is true. This is going to happen. This is a true prophecy, and we're telling you about things that are going to happen at the end times. So can there be any doubt about the validity of all of this? And then he says, it will be for time, times, and half a time. By now you should understand what that means.
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Half the tribulation.
A time, and half a times. That's the end of the tribulation.
Well, it's a halfway point.
Yes,
Or 7 years.
that's right. There's 7 years of tribulation. I believe this is talking about the last half. And then the shattering of the power of the holy people comes to an end, and all these things will be finished. They will be finished when Jesus comes back again, second time. So at the end of the tribulation, at the Battle of Armageddon, Jesus will come again, and these things will be finished. I heard, but I did not understand. Daniel didn't understand the meaning of all these things, he was told. But you know what? He wasn't meant to. He was just the messenger. But he was told to write it down for us, for our benefit. He said, go your way, Daniel, for the words are shut up and sealed until the time of the end. And I believe that we are in the end times, the time of the end. Many shall purify themselves and make themselves white and be refined, but the wicked shall act wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but those who are wise shall understand. I believe the end of the time has been delayed so that many more can be added to the kingdom of heaven. And so it says that many shall purify themselves and make themselves white and be refined. We know that making themselves white is being righteous, covered with the robes of righteousness. Our sins are washed away, and we're now white in righteousness. When God looks down on us, he just sees our white robes because we're righteous before him, because Jesus has paid the debt for all of our sins. So many shall purify themselves and make themselves white and be refined. But the wicked shall continue to act wickedly. There's always going to be evil in the world. The wicked shall continue to act wickedly. And they just don't get it. It says that they shall not understand, they won't understand. They just don't get it. But those who are wise shall understand. We need to be wise and understand. And then this last two verses, or last three verses, we talked about from the time that the regular burnt offering is taken away and the abomination that makes desolation is set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Now, 3.5 years are 1,260 days. This speaks of 90. There's a difference of 30 days in there. We don't really know why there's a difference of 30 days there, because it's always talked about 1,260 days. But some suggest that the 30 days account for a time of judgment of the nations after the end of the tribulation. So these are some of the verses that I think we're going to find out what it means later on. And blessed is he who waits and arrives at the end of 1,335 days. We know the blessing is pronounced on those people, but again, we're just going to have to wait and see what's going to happen at that time. We know that around that time, the millennial kingdom is going to be set up. It's going to be a real exciting time, and those who know Jesus will then go into the millennium kingdom when Jesus will rule the world. So maybe that's what it's talking about. That it'll be that a little while after there's going to be the Battle of Armageddon. Jesus will come again. Then there's going to be the final judgment. And then Jesus will set up the millennial kingdom. So maybe it's just talking about the time in there until the millennial kingdom comes and Jesus is ruling over the world.
In other words, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. That's right.
Don't worry
It's going to be
about it.
exciting.
I'll reveal, I'll tell you when you're supposed to do it.
That's right. Just don't worry about it.
Do all the Bible, different versions of the Bible, use the same number of days?
I think so. Is yours not?
No, it does, I just
yeah,
was wondering if,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So, he tells Daniel to go your way until the end, and you shall rest and shall stand in your allotted place at the end of the days. So Daniel didn't live to see most of his prophecies fulfilled, but the angel told him that he would rest in death, and at the end of days he would stand in his allotted place. So it's telling him that he's going to be with him in heaven, and that there's a place for him there, his allotted place.
I like the mine says it, and you will arise to your inheritance at the end of days.
Arise to your inheritance. That's great. Yeah. Yep. I believe, there's a special place for each of us. And I heard it said that we really only use like 10% of our brains, and I don't think that God wastes anything, so maybe we're going to use that other 90% in heaven.
I don't know if we all have that amount.
I run into some, I don't think I've got that much.
So, it's going to be an exciting time.